Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Steelers legend. Should I say, man, Steelers legend, we got Levon Kirkland, man. How's it going?
Man, it's going great. Thank you so much for asking. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, dude, anytime, man. It's
hmm
just, we haven't heard that name in quite a long time. But when you think of the Steelers defense, you come to mind.
Well, thank you very much. When I got there, it was always a legacy of linebackers with Jack Ham and Jack Lammer, Merriweather, also David Little. And I just wanted to make sure that when I got there or when I was in the mix, that I was a positive asset for the Pittsburgh Steelers and that I kept up the legacy. And I felt like I really did. I felt like I did a good job when I was in there. So yeah, man, it was a positive experience being a part of that Pittsburgh Steelers defense of the '90s. I thought we kind of brought the Steelers back into the forefront, but also being a part of the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers is pretty cool.
Yeah, when you think of Pittsburgh, you think of their historic defense. You think of the way they've been consistent. Like when you under their coaching changes, they rarely change head coaches. That speaks volume right there. Chuck Noll was like your head coach for the Steelers for a while, and then it went from Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin. So it's kind of like the loyalty, right?
I think so. I think when you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers, you think about a family owned franchise that runs it their way and run it the way they want to run it. So, although you see changes all the time in the NFL, especially on the coaching front, you never know if coaches are going to last more than 3 years or so. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been I would have to say, very consistent as far as their coaches are concerned, and it seemed to really hold together the culture because all three coaches they're pretty much alike.
Yeah, it's pretty ideal for the Steelers. Like the way they build their team, it's very consistent. It's just the way the Rooneys run the business. That's how certain owners should take blueprints, man. Like if you give up on coaches too soon, then you're not patient. Like how Pittsburgh builds it.
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand that putting together a team, a winning team, especially in what we call the free agent market that started in 1993, where guys are leaving every 3 to 4 years. Yeah, it's kind of tough to keep teams together. So, what's the one mainstay that you can have on a team? A lot of times, it may not be players, but it could be coaches. If you got a good coach, why not keep them?
Oh,
Especially
absolutely.
coaches that won Super Bowls or been to the playoffs. That's hard to find in the NFL. It is. It's harder to find than you think. And they're very patient. They're going to give their coaches opportunities to go forward. I feel like if a coach is not doing their job, then they probably won't be there. But I think Tomlin has a solid foundation there. I think he's going to be there until he probably retires, and then they'll go another direction.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon because it's rare for Mike Tomlin to have a losing season. Because when you look at his track record, I don't think he's ever had much of he's never had a losing season. Like he was always above 500. He would always make the playoffs. He would always make the defense consistent, just like how Bill Cowher and Chuck Noll have built that foundation. But when you started coming into the league, what was it like to just get you? Like, what was it like just to have a dream come true to play for that organization?
It was awesome. It's something that you think about. For me, when I was 11 years old, I just put it out there in the universe that I wanted to play in the NFL. And to go from 11 years old to now you're 22 years old to go into a dream of yours, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing feat. That's a long time. That's basically almost 11 years that you thought about this dream going through high school, going through college, and now having the opportunity to live out something that you thought about as a kid in your backyard was incredible. And for me, I was very fortunate to go to an organization like the Pittsburgh Steelers with the Roonies, but not only that, to have a coach like Bill Cowher that was also coming in as a young coach. As a young player at that time, Bill Cowher was the absolute best. Somebody that you wanted to play for, somebody that you run through a wall for. And not only that, he had a great coaching staff with guys like on the defensive side, Dom Capers, Dick LeBeau, Marvin Lewis, John Mitchell, Tim Lewis, Jim Haslick, guys like that really shaped and molded you as a player. And I can't forget Mike Archer. Mike Archer was probably the coach for me that really helped me with my confidence. And he was the first one to tell me that I was going to be able to go to a Pro Bowl level, that I had everything it took. And then you have teammates like Greg Lloyd, Rod Woodson, Kevin Green, Carnell Lake, Darren Perry, Joe Steve, Briston Buckner. I can really go down the list. Chad Brown, my tag team partner. And I'm telling you, environment makes a difference. And I was fortunate enough to go to a place that the environment breed championship. The environment made you take ownership of what you were doing. So yeah, man, I was just really fortunate to go to a organization like that.
Oh yeah, dude. It's just like, most kids have dreamed to always want to play in the league, but man, I don't know specifically how to like look at it. When you look at yourself on the Wikipedia, are you listed at 275 at linebacker, or is it actually true that you were
I
listed at
came
275?
in about it's kind of funny because my weight kind of fluctuated as I was in the league. It was a rough position. So I felt like my size was really my advantage. And the thing about it, it didn't slow me down as far as pass coverage or playing the position. I probably was I was probably extremely quicker than most players. I know that's kind of hard to, if you look at it, it's hard to say, but if you go back and you watch the film, you can see my quickness. And it was probably way quicker than most linebackers, and it definitely was quicker than most guys my size. So my size actually worked for me than against me.
Oh yeah, I mean, you were just a rare position. Like when you were playing linebacker, like everybody looked at you and said, hey, "Man, that dude's a D tackle playing linebacker out there." And I'm like, "This guy can cover. This guy can hit you." It's like you don't see much positions at that point where this guy's big, bro. Like, do you ever think of seeing a D tackle playing linebacker, but actually can cover and do everything all at once? I don't think I've never seen that position until you did.
No, it, it it wasn't my intention to be that way, but because I was such a good athlete in high school and college, and like I said, I had incredible feet. I could really move, uh, so it worked for me. I
Yeah.
wasn't the normal. It wasn't like I came in the league 260 or whatever. I evolved as a player, and fortunately for me, I kept my quickness. So I just wasn't, and even if you looked at me at 260, 270, I wasn't like the normal 260, 270 guy with a gut hanging out or whatever like that. I mean, if you go look back, I was a pretty solid guy body wise.
Yeah, you were like, dude, some of the offensive coordinators or anybody that was playing against the Steelers, they would always try to figure out how to stop you because you were like the biggest factor at times.
I was in the 3-4 scheme. You got to understand that the outside linebackers are going to get the most popularity. They're going to get the most shine because they sack the quarterback, right?
Yep.
And people, their quarterback, they consider the most important position on the field. And if you got guys who can sack the quarterback, that's what people look at. They look at that. And we had some incredible linebackers at the outside position. if you talk about Greg Lloyd, Kevin Green, and even for me, Jason Gilden and Joey Porter.
Oh, Joey
Those
Porter
guys,
was
those
the most consistent. Like he would always back it up on the field.
right, those guys got the headlines, but the inside linebacker position in a 3-4 is probably one of the most difficult positions because you're required to do everything. Stop the run, also be effective as far as a blitzer is concerned, and then also you have to guard guys or cover guys, downfield. I don't know a lot of linebackers that at the time was catching interceptions 30 or 40 yards down the field.
I couldn't
And I
even
was
think of
doing
anyone.
that. So it was a job that was a tough job and it required a lot of things. And at the time when we played, not so much now, being a big linebacker wasn't a bad thing because everything was in the box and there was a lot of running back then. So you had to be durable, you had to be strong, you had to be a presence. And I felt like I was something unique and I was a presence that a lot of people were not quite used to and didn't really know how to articulate it.
Yeah, and the way you said it, like before you came into the mold, there wasn't linebackers of your caliber or any other linebacker. But after you kind of molded that position, you had the likes of Julian Peterson who did a little bit more. But I think I would put you above because there's not many 300-pound guys that would do stuff at that and play linebacker at that position. It's just, I don't know, like you're just one of a kind,
Mm-hmm.
Like if I wanted to build a defense, bro, I would want to put you at the middle because I know I'm going to get somebody with heart and consistency and durability.
Well, that was the thing. I felt like the biggest attribute that I brought to the table was I never missed a game. I was very doable. You could say, people would say, "Oh, your size, or you're too big," but I never got hurt.
Yeah, durability is
So,
important, and you did it for a while. And
so availability is good.
yeah, it is.
It's good, and I was pretty consistent. I had more like 100 tackles probably for the most of my career. Counting playoffs. So I think I was a very consistent player, and I had 2 years that was able to put me in the Pro Bowl. I was voted in the 1990s All Decade team. So not a bad run, not a bad career.
Yeah, in 1997, alum linebacker of the year, I believe you were on
Yeah.
that resume
Mm-hmm.
there, and two-time All-Pro. I don't know any other guy who would play at that highest level with that type of weight, but you use it into your advantage, and durability is what kept you so long. And dude, like you made a mainstay in Pittsburgh, and when people look at Pittsburgh's defense, they look at the 70s, they look at the 90s. You got to take pride in that, bro, because that takes a lot of it. And then the foundation, the future of what Pittsburgh is, they're still a
Right.
well-oiled machine.
Yeah, I looked at, the 70s as a good period for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, they won 4 Super Bowls during that time. But I really believe that when Bill Cowher got there in 92, we kind of built that winning tradition. We brought the excitement back to Pittsburgh, the winning ways of Pittsburgh, the blue-collar type of defense that Pittsburgh was accustomed to seeing. And we had some good star power. And we had a defense, especially what we did as far as fire zones and what people call Blitzburg. I thought we did that better. I thought we were more of innovators than a lot of other teams. And also, I felt like we had the guys that really fit the bill. And what I mean is, scheme is one thing, but you got to have the players to run the scheme. If you don't have the correct players to do that, then the scheme is just a scheme. I always say it all works and it all doesn't work. And what makes it work is really good coaches that put you in very good position to win and be successful, but also the players that take ownership and bring something to the table that you need. And I felt like the Pittsburgh Steelers that we had at the time, we all brought something to the table. We're all unique in a lot of ways. but we all wanted to win and we all wanted to be the very best that we possibly could be. And I think that's the reason why it worked out. And like I said, our leadership was really on point. Bill Cowher was a great he probably took he probably had a master's in psychology because he really knew how to motivate, he knew how to push you to your limits a without being a dictator. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It wasn't a. I don't feel like we were in a dictatorship. I felt like we were a team that was loose, and I felt like him being a football player and being a football player in the NFL really gave a better perspective than most coaches that come into the league.
Oh yeah, like it all comes down to how you fit the culture and how you fit the scheme. Because if you're going to run a scheme, it has to be the players who really fit into how the players' skill set. Like how you guys were running the defense, it fit perfectly, uniquely. Like the physicality, the style of plays that you guys have presented from that time. I think the way you guys did it, you gave up the least amount of yards at times. You were playing really good opponents, and there was teams like Denver that had to figure out game plans how to get you guys, like how to get you to stop.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of it started from guys like Joe Steed, our nose guard, that was such a force at that position. And then you look at myself, Chad Brown, and then you look at the safeties. At that time, a defense really required that you have a strong middle of a
Strong middle,
defense
yep.
on all three levels, from the line of scrimmage to the backers to the safeties. And I felt like Cardinal Lake, who was probably one of the most underrated players that ever played, Darren Perry, who's probably one of the smartest guys who ever played. And I thought that me and Chad were very good athletes that brought something different. Like I was more of a guy that you couldn't run like isolations or anything like that on me. I would just destroy it, I blow it up. And Chad was the guy that could really run around and make plays.
Oh yeah.
And it was a perfect combination. You know, and I called us like the best tag team. If you are a fan of wrestling,
Oh
a
yeah, I'm
lot
a
of
fan of
times
wrestling.
a good tag team is someone, you got two guys that bring something to the table that enhances the other. And that's how me and Chad Brown was. We were two guys that were different as far as players were concerned, but we worked so well together because what I brought to the table, Chad didn't have, and what Chad brought to the table, I didn't have. But together, it's just like a good marriage. A good marriage is
Yeah.
two people that come together and they're not really complete, but they enhance each other. And that was me and Chad Brown. And then we had a guy, like I said, Joe C, who was unselfish, who did a lot of the dirty work, took on double teams like a champion, and it made our defense work.
Yeah, like the chemistry between you guys, you brought something different to the table, and you had something different compared to him. But it's just like how you have a wrestling. Sometimes the people have the different abilities, but you can always make the most out of it with the way they use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's an interesting. Speaking of Ryan Shazier, have you ever reached out to him in any other way?
Oh,
Man,
yeah.
that guy was special, but the injury is what really kind of derailed him.
Oh, yeah. I talked to Ryan. I actually met him last year, and we had a really good talk. And he was on my podcast that I had. And I thought, watching Ryan, man, I was a big fan of Ryan because he could absolutely move. He was a guy that really understood the defense, and he was going to be an amazing player. But injuries, and that's the one thing too. At that position, man, you really need to be a. How can I say it? I think you just need to be you got to be a doable guy because it's physically demanding. And it worked for me at the time because like I was bigger than most people, so it worked. I think that now how offense have changed. The guy has to be more of a guy who can really move, probably better in space, but then you still got to be durable against the run.
Yeah, you do.
And so I remember one scout telling me when I left the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was like, "We still can't find Levon Kirkland in college anywhere." He's like, "We still can't find that guy."
They don't make any of those players. I
He's
mean,
like,
it's one of a kind.
he's like, "We can't find him. There's no guy that was like you and what you brought to the table." But I thought Ryan Shazier was an incredible player. And just unfortunately he had that injury, but he's a great guy. He's a strong guy. He's a guy of faith. And he's getting along just fine. Great family, great wife, great kid. But I'm telling you, man, he was definitely carrying on that legacy as far as inside linebackers concerned. So you still hope that you can find that.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan was on the rise to being like a really great linebacker, like the speed, the coverage skills, and all that. That guy was playing consistently, just the durability. I guess the career injuries, it happens to a lot of players these days. It's like all it takes is one hit or two, and then your career's over. So it's one of those, But lucky for you, you were able to survive it.
Yeah, like I said, you have to be fortunate, man. The good Lord, whoever you pray to, has to be looking over you. And things have to, they have to work out. And for me, they did. I was able to not really have any injuries at all and was able to last. But most times, most guys don't go, when I went 11 seasons without missing a game. I started in a bunch of games at one point in time. So to go through that and not miss a game is incredible.
Yeah, 11 years and not miss any games, man. I don't know. Like, there's just not many players that could just say, "Hey, I played for so many years and not missed a single game or something like that."
In college and high school, I never missed a game. So I never, as far as my football career is, I'd never missed a game.
Yeah, so you were just built like you were just built kind of like I guess like the Fantastic Four, the Thing, man. You just seemed like you weren't gonna miss any time.
No, I wasn't. And like I said, most people look at the number, and they look at 300 pounds or 270, 280, or whatever. But I was a solid built kind of dude. And like I said, I was probably quicker than the average guy my size, or even guys who weigh less than me. I was probably quicker than the average linebacker in the NFL. So it just kind of all worked for me. I mean, I have to really give thanks to God for allowing me to play as long as I played.
Oh, here's a good compliment from somebody who admires the game of football. When you look up "built different" in the dictionary, you see a picture of Levon Kirkland. Yeah, you're built different. They don't make many Levon Kirklands in today's football. Like you said, a lot of people have been trying to look for that guy, and there's just not many of those. Like it's like you get one of those kind of generational talents, and you were just built a different time and era. You had guys like Julian Peterson who did everything, but then you had Levon Kirkland who was just rare. You were quicker than an average linebacker. You were built like a D tackle. I mean, in any era, if you were playing in any era, I think you would still be one of the best. I think you would have probably, yeah.
You know what I say, though? This is what I say. People say, like, well, you wouldn't be able to play in a certain era. I don't think that's the truth. I think that any guy who played pro ball probably could play any era because you would adapt it to the training. You would adapt it to the climate. And so if you had the mindset to be, say, if I played in the 90s, I could have played in the 2000s because I think it would have been, you would have trained differently. You would have did things differently. So I think the person who played would have played. Maybe, the number, like 260, whatever. I probably wouldn't have been 260 playing inside linebacker in the 2000s or what it is now. But I think that the player who plays in NFL could easily adapt to what's going on in different eras because they would have been adaptable. And that's what good athletes do. They're able to adapt to the situation that confronts them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I looked at it. And I think that I was a rarity. I looked at Football Life yesterday and they had Kevin Johnson. And Kevin was about 6'5", ran like a 4.3, could jump like a 4.2. Man, that guy was just a rarity. I mean, it's like you can't find that guy. I don't know if you can grow him. I don't know if you can go in the lab and clone him.
Make another one. Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
It's just one of those guys like, man, this guy's incredible. Like, I don't know what you want me to do when I'm going against this guy. And a lot of times when we would play, like, you're warming up and you meet other guys on the other teams and they just like, man, it's not fair. They used to tell me that all the time. It's like, dude, it's not fair that you can do what you can do.
It was more like your advantage. Like, you had to be blessed with God just for giving you that size and that ability. I mean, like, dude, like as much as I want to build a defense, man, I want to build a guy who's going to be durable and be built built more like you, but just more of a guy that would just be everywhere. I mean,
yeah, I think, if you can find that guy, I mean, that's the guy you want, especially the inside linebacker, because you can make a difference. A lot of people like to put more emphasis on the DNs, the cornerbacks, guys like that. But when you find a guy that can control the middle of your defense, you found a special guy. There's still a need for linebackers in the NFL. Just like I said, the running game still works in the NFL.
Yeah, you got to stop the run, but
you got to be able to stop the run at some point in time. You can't just say, okay, we're just going to pass the ball. We're going to be innovative as far as drawing patterns are concerned. I think you have to always have that good running game. And I think you always have to have linebackers who can not only stuff the run, but be able to cover as well. So, that guy's not easy to find. You have to make sure that maybe you get a guy that played a different position and maybe put him back there and let his athleticism work. That's what happened to me and Chad Brown. Me and Chad were outside linebackers in college. They moved us to inside backer, and we just learned the position, and it worked for us. But, yeah, we were different guys. We were probably more athletic at that time than most inside linebacker duos that played.
Yeah, mostly inside linebackers, they tend to usually just go in the middle to tackle, but outside linebackers, they do more of the outside coverage, or they either just try to stop and contain those run plays, whatever happens there, because you have the outside run, the inside run, and then the other outside run. So,
and not only that, you have to be a kind of a cerebral player inside. You have to understand what offenses are trying to do to you. You have to be able to read the plays. And I can tell you, okay, read the triangle from guard to tackle, a guard to the running back, but it's a feel, it's a sense. You got to be able to understand body language, what people are trying to do to you. So not only is it a position that you have to be a doable, athletic guy, but you also have to be kind of cerebral in your thinking.
Yeah, cerebral. You got to be able to execute it. Like in today's football, most of these linebackers are just asked to cover most of the time, but the running plays are still there. So it's still it's still a running team for some perspective. Like you have the 49ers who still consistently run the ball. You have teams like Baltimore who still runs the ball.
Yeah. And you gotta have guys who can diagnose the run and be able to not only make a tackle, but make a significant tackle. Make a tackle behind the line of scrimmage. And a lot of times people don't really count that as much, but that's a big factor when you got guys who can make plays in the backfield.
Oh yeah.
You got those kind of guys, man. It makes a difference. It puts the offense, no matter what. If you put the offense in third and long situations, it's tougher for them to get those first downs, especially if you don't have a quarterback who can run, who can get it on his legs. You got a guy. That's why the Peyton Mannings, the Eli Mannings of the world are not as effective as they were back in the day.
Yeah, like it's just a lot different. Like, the
Yeah.
way they were effective in their early years, like Peyton Manning when he played in his era, it's kind of become more of a position to the quarterback where they have to do a lot more than just what they do. You see a lot of these Patrick Mahomes, these Josh Allens, bro. They're just
Yeah, they
doing
can
it.
run. They have the ability to run and pass it. Well, let's put it this way: they have the ability to definitely pass it all over the yard, but they also have the ability when it's 3rd and 10 to gain that first down, at least gain 8 yards or so to put them in a 4th and 2. So that's why those guys are dangerous now, and the game is steady evolving and steady
Oh yeah,
changing.
it's that.
So you have to be able to adjust to that kind of offense. So you got to have defensive players that can adjust too. But it's harder. Like, people want to say, "Oh, well, just move a safety to linebacker." It's not always easy either, because those guys now you got to be able to take on linemen. You got to be able to move laterally. You got to be able to stuff running backs. So just simply say, "I'm gonna bring a safety to linebacker," is not easy as well.
They got to add a little more weight too because of the way they're going to go against physical running backs. Sometimes they have to go against tight ends,
Right.
but in today's NFL, do you feel like the lead's gotten soft and the defense has a disadvantage?
Well, I think that the rules are definitely more offensive slanted. So it gives the offense more of an advantage than the defense. I don't. I wouldn't say that. Are they soft? I wouldn't say that. A lot of guys will probably say that, but I wouldn't say that. I would just say that the rules are made for the offense to succeed. It's tougher to play defense.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was just. I mean, pass interference is just ridiculous. I mean, offensive linemen, they hold most of the time. You never hear that call a lot in games. So it's more of a disadvantage. I mean, you can't, jamming the tight end at the line of scrimmage doesn't really work now, because a lot of times they'll put that guy in motion and put him behind a stack formation or a bunch formation. And so you can't really get to him anymore. So I think the rules and the athletes, the defense hasn't quite yet caught up to the
Yeah.
offense. But I don't think it's like, oh, well, the game is softer. It's just a different brand of football.
Yeah, different brand of football where they want to I guess they want to see the offense be more explosive, but I know, man,
Well,
like
because that brings butts to the seats.
yeah, it brings butts to the seats and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
You, you, don't, you, you don't have many fan bases that love defense like a Pittsburgh Steelers, that, they grew on defense. Most teams are offensive minded. In their fan base, they want to see points. The casual fan want to see points. The Super Bowl fan base that comes to the Super Bowl, the celebrities, they want to see points.
they want to see numbers. That's what it is. I get it, but it's
Yeah.
just sometimes a great defense puts on a good game. Like if you want to go against one of the best offense, then they have to test on the best stingy defense. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, at one point in time, I like the era that I played in. There's nothing against any other era. I just like the era that I played in because it was really more in the box. It was more man to man. It was more of, can I beat this other guy across from me? And it's going to be a physical contest.
yeah,
I thought that was a good brand of football. Now it's just more wide open, and they want points on the board.
yeah, and touching the quarterback, you can't like if you sack the quarterback, you can't even put your body weight into it like that. So
Right. And see, that was the difference, because in my era, you didn't have to always sack the quarterback. You had to send him a message. Like,
let
we're
them know.
coming. We may not get a sack on you, but you would definitely feel the heat and you would definitely get some hits. That's the difference. Now
Yeah.
quarterbacks are not afraid to just stand back there and pass the ball because they know if somebody hits someone, lights them up, it's going to be a penalty. So you can't really do that because it's going to hurt your team. But back then, you could send a message to not only the quarterbacks, you send it to any wide receiver that comes in the middle. If you come across this middle, you're going to have to pay a toll. You're going to have to pay a fine. Now it's different. You can't really just collect on those guys like you could. So, quarterbacks, they feel like, hey, I got time. They can't hit me like they used to. So it's just a
Yeah.
different game. Yeah.
Definitely a different game. Yeah, and that's the thing. In those days when you were playing, quarterbacks would either be like afraid, but now they just have the advantage when it comes to like getting hit. Oh, he touched me, he hit me. It's like
Yeah.
it's like
and then they're going to get those 15 yards. I mean, if you're sometimes I think as a defense, man, you should just tag off on them, not just enough that he knows, okay, they're bringing it. I need to be aware. I think like, man, take a 15-yard penalty every once in a while to let a quarterback know that we're still going to hit you.
Yeah, they're still going to hit, but it's just they have to be wise about it in today's football.
Yeah.
I mean,
like I said, every once in a while, you let a quarterback know, you tattoo him, you hit him late. As the coordinator, I would just like hit his ass late, and see how it would affect him. Because
oh yeah,
I look at the Tom Brady, and he's a great quarterback. There's no doubt about it. But I remember when the Giants got after him in the Super Bowl, he was a different quarterback.
he got hit. The D line kept.
He was a frustrated quarterback when they brought that heat like they did.
Yeah, that
and
Giants
I think if you can do that, those quarterbacks don't want to be touched.
That's facts.
They don't want to be hit. They don't even want to be whiffed on.
Yeah, it's like, okay, when you were comparing how Brady was so great, but when he played against the Giants defense and that Philadelphia Eagles defense, man, he was a different cat. Like he might
because no matter how good a quarterback is, if you put you hit him, they're not as this. Well, I take it back. There are some quarterbacks I thought that could really withstand it. Like I thought Brett Favre was one of those guys that can take you.
He was a durable.
Steve McNair was a guy that was a tough guy, a real tough guy. But I'm going to have to say most quarterbacks are not built that way.
Not many are built that way. Like I don't think there's that many Brett Favres. Like if we're talking if
really
we're talking,
they're sitting ducks.
Yeah, they're sitting ducks. They're too soft. They want to miss. They want to miss a game because they got a boo boo.
I'm not gonna call them soft. I wouldn't call them soft. I think your offensive line, you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable to hits, and if you're getting hit and not being protected, so I wouldn't say anybody who plays sports. I really wouldn't.
Oh, interesting question. Since you were mentioning Steve McNair, did you ever sack Steve McNair?
I didn't.
You never did? Oh, shoot. Something happened. I guess something to do with this reception, guys. But let me see if everything's good then. But I was probably going to end the stream. I think I went past over the limit. But Levon Kirkland was pretty cool, man. But let's see if he jumps back in quickly. Oh, snap. Yeah, bad connection. But other than that, he's cool, bro. Like, you can learn a lot of football from all these players, bro. They just know the game of football. Like, but maybe he had to go do something. But I think he was giving me, like, a time limit that he had, and I think it went past by or just receptions. But if he comes back, we can continue a little bit and then end it. I don't want to hold up on this guy. Let's see. Let me check, see if he's gonna come back or not. I'll tell him my bad. Yeah. All right, let's see if he comes right back. But if not, then I'm probably gonna end the stream because I don't want to hold up on this guy, man. He's a cool dude, but maybe I'll try to like get him on for the week 1 matchup. So maybe during week 1 of the season, maybe I'll get him on just to get his takes on the Niners and other stuff. So we'll see. But I think he's having reception issues, or he's probably got to go do something. But it's cool. Let me see if he wants to come back or not, or we can just end it, bro. Yeah. I'll try to see if I can bring him on, but I don't want to hold up on somebody. I think he's already sent 30 minutes, and it went past by. Maybe the reception, maybe he had to go do something. But dude, this guy knows the game, so maybe he's just. I think he's pretty much. I don't think he's coming back. I think he'll either. I'll give it a few more minutes, and if he doesn't come back, I'll probably just end the stream, and I'll chop it up with him another day. But yeah, dude, I just acknowledge great NFL players, bro. Like, even as a Niners fan, bro, you have to respect the game. This is what my content is all about, is bringing great NFL guesses. Whether you're a Steelers fan or just a football player in general, you just love watching guys like Levon Kirkland play this position. You like watching those dudes like Joe Green. That's historic defense. You had Jack Ham. Was it Jack Ham was another linebacker, and Jack Lambert? Dude, those guys were like the gritties. They were just old school. They don't make many players like in today's NFL. But thank you guys for tuning in. I think I'm just going to end the stream. I'll just let Levon Kirkland know that, hey, it's all good, bro. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. I think he's having bad reception, but we'll catch up. Thank you guys. And as always, I'll keep y'all posted.